Hello and welcome. My name is Zafar Iqbal, and you're watching the Mojo Story. Dramatic developments taking place in Pakistan, political developments. Today, an important day in the history of that country. There is a Supreme Court hearing which is going on, and in fact, now is the time for Supreme Court to give a verdict. Now, this all started when the Deputy Speaker of the Pakistani National Assembly disallowed a vote of no confidence. The voting was supposed to take place, but Speaker disallowed the motion. The background to that is that all the opposition parties had come together to against the Imran Khan's government, the PTI or the Imran Khan government. In fact, some of his allies had also distanced themselves from Imran Khan and joined hand with the opposition parties. It was clear that opposition had the numbers and Imran Khan's government was going to fall. But quite dramatically, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly disallowed the motion. The Supreme Court took a suo moto action, and they heard the case on a daily basis. They heard both the sides, and now there is this verdict that's being announced. But even before the verdict, the Supreme Court has said that the ruling the ruling was not justified. There are errors, and it has in fact removed the blot or the taint from the opposition leaders that there is a foreign conspiracy to topple the Imran Khan government. Now, to speak more on this, we're joined by a panel, an eminent panel from Pakistan. We joined by from India also. Major General Dhruv Katuch joins us. Hassan. Major General Dhruv Katuch, of course, Hassan Aslam Shad, who's a lawyer, he also joins us from Pakistan. Azim Bhatt, author and political activist, also joins us, and Saral Sharma, PhD scholar from JNU, also joined us. Azim, but if I can start with you, what is the sense that you make of the developments that are taking place today? And an important day, the Supreme Court is announcing its verdict. It will also determine that whether the assembly will be reinstated, the assembly that has already been dissolved after Imran Khan advised the president to dissolve the assembly, and whether the country is heading towards a fresh election.
Thank you very much. And definitely, this is the historic moment of Pakistan. For Pakistan, Supreme Court verdict is very important for democracy in Pakistan and the constitutional rule of Pakistan. Because now this is the situation after almost 15 years. Almost 15 years, we are going to. यस सो अस्ट्रल के इस वक्त जो पाकिस्तान के अंदर जो सूरत हाल है वो सुप्रीम कोर्ट इस वक्त एक हिस्टोरिक फैसला जो है वो करने जा रही है और मैं समझता हूं कि अगर ये नहीं आप ये समझिए कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के खिलाफ अगर कोई भी बात होती है तो उसके अंदर जो लॉ एंड ऑर्डर की सिचुएशन है वो बहुत खतरनाक जो है वो रुख इख्तियार करेगी और इस वक्त दोनों पार्टी जो है पाकिस्तान तहरीक इंसाफ और पाकिस्तान मुस्लिम लीग नवाज उन दोनों ने ऑपोजिशन एंड द गवर्नमेंट दोनों ने अपने जो जो लोग हैं उनको स्टैंड बाय पे रखा हुआ है और सुप्रीम कोर्ट की वर्डिक्ट चाहे किसी के भी हक में आए पाकिस्तान के अंदर जो सिक्योरिटी के मामलात हैं वो इस वक्त जो है वो बड़े इंपॉर्टेंट हैं और सुप्रीम कोर्ट के गिर्द जो है वो सिक्योरिटी जो है वो हाई अलर्ट कर दी गई है, टाइट कर दी गई है और उसके हवाले से जो है वो देखना पड़ेगा। अब असेंबली जो है वो एक जो वर्डिक आता है अगर सुप्रीम कोर्ट का कि रूलिंग जिस तरह से उन्होंने बताया कि स्पीकर की जो रूलिंग है उसके ऊपर तो बड़े क्लियर रिमार्क्स आ गए हैं कि स्पीकर की रूलिंग जो है वो गलत थी, लेकिन अब देखना ये है कि टेक्निकली अगर वो रूलिंग गलत थी तो जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के मुताबिक असेंबली है वो कहां पर स्टैंड करती है। क्या इस वक्त दोबारा हम 3 अप्रैल वाली सिचुएशन में चले जाएंगे? 3 अप्रैल को लास्ट डे था वोटिंग का जो कि नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन के ऊपर वोटिंग होनी थी असेंबली के अंदर, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के मुताबिक वो लास्ट डे था 3 अप्रैल का और अगर उधर वोटिंग जो है वो उसी सिचुएशन में जाती है तो क्या वोटिंग का ऑर्डर भी सुप्रीम कोर्ट देगी, ये भी देखना पड़ेगा। अब ये सारी सूरत हाल के अंदर सुप्रीम कोर्ट को डिटेल्ड फैसला करना पड़ेगा। ये नहीं हो सकता है कि आप 1 वन लाइनर फैसला सुनाए या आप जो है वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ एक पेज का फैसला सुनाए। इसके अंदर टेक्निकलिटी इतनी है, एक आम आदमी जब क्लॉजेस पढ़ता है जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ पाकिस्तान है उसकी, तो उसको ऐसा लगता है कि तमाम क्लॉजेस आपस में जो है वो एक दूसरे के खिलाफ है या एक दूसरे से तजाद हो रहा है इनका और ये आपस में जो है वो लड़ रही है, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है। अब इस वक्त अगर देखा जाए तो सबसे जो बेसिक मुद्दा था वो तहरीक इंसाफ का सुप्रीम कोर्ट में ये आर्गुमेंट था कि रूलिंग जो है ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ पाकिस्तान कहता है कि स्पीकर की रूलिंग को चैलेंज किया ही नहीं जा सकता है, उसके ऊपर सुप्रीम कोर्ट जो है वो हेयरिंग कर ही नहीं सकती है। लेकिन उसके बाद सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इसकी जो है वो एक्सप्लेनेशन की, तशरीह की कि ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है कि एक स्पीकर अगर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के मुताबिक उसको माना कि ये राइट हासिल है, मगर ये नहीं हो सकता है कि अगर आप कोई आइन के खिलाफ, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के खिलाफ स्पीकर जो है वो बैठ के असेंबली के अंदर कोई वर्डिक्ट देता है या कोई बात करता है तो हम उसको चैलेंज नहीं कर सकते। इस तरह तो आप एक शख्स को इतना पावरफुल बना देंगे कि वो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ पाकिस्तान को रोन देगा, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ पाकिस्तान की खिलाफवर्जी कर देगा। सो ये सारी चीजों को देखना पड़ेगा। और फिर सबसे बड़ी चीज जो मैं बार बार कह रहा हूं कि अर्ली इलेक्शन ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ये कहे कि ठीक है रूलिंग गलत थी, हम उसके ऊपर अलहदा कार्रवाई करेंगे और जो है वो हम ये भी देखेंगे कि इलेक्शन जो है वो फौरी करवा दिए जाए। फौरी इलेक्शन करवाने के लिए आपको तमाम सूरत हाल देखनी पड़ेगी। सदर पाकिस्तान जो प्रेसिडेंट है हमारे आरिफ अलवी, उन्होंने इलेक्शन कमीशन को ऑलरेडी एक लेटर लिखा और आज उस लेटर को जो है वो जवाब दिया है इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ पाकिस्तान ने। और उसका ये कहना है कि हम 3 महीने में इलेक्शन नहीं करवा सकते हैं, हमें नई हल्का बंदियां करनी है, नई मर्दमशुमारी करनी है और ये सारी चीजों को देखना पड़ेगा। तो जो इलेक्शन कमीशन है उसने सदर मुमलिकत को सीधा इनकार कर दिया कि हम 3 महीने में इलेक्शन नहीं करवा सकते हैं। तो आया सुप्रीम कोर्ट अर्ली इलेक्शन की जो बात कर रही है और फौरी इलेक्शन की जो बात कर रही है वो कहां स्टैंड करती है, जबकि इलेक्शन करवाने वाला जो इदारा है वही इस वक्त ये कहने के ऊपर मजबूर है कि हम इलेक्शन नहीं करवा सकते।
आया है, लेकिन अभी सुप्रीम कोर्ट का वर्डिक्ट नहीं आया। लेकिन हसन असलम शाद, इट वाज सेड इन द बिगिनिंग from the PTI members that Supreme Court has no jurisdiction over the Parliament. Whatever happens in the Parliament stays in the Parliament. Of course, it's the Speaker's prerogative to do the ruling, to make the ruling, and Supreme Court has no real jurisdiction over that. But that thing seems to have settled for now. The Supreme Court has said that the Deputy Speaker's ruling, it was a wrong ruling.
Yes, thank you very much, firstly, for inviting me on your show. Look, we are all waiting for the detailed verdict. So until and unless we know what the Supreme Court holds, it's all going to be speculation. Thus far, you're right. We have heard that the court has made this observation that the Deputy Speaker did not have this, that Article 63 of the Constitution does not have a firewall which prevents the Supreme Court from interpreting the Constitution. That much has been said. Now, you have to understand that this was one of the arguments that was used by the PTI when this was taken up by the Supreme Court of Pakistan. And but this is not the end goal that the PTI is looking for. The PTI's end goal is to somehow go towards early elections because Prime Minister Imran Khan, now he's a caretaker Prime Minister, he's riding a populist wave. And this vote of no confidence and the subsequent dissolution of the assemblies, in my view, has given him that momentum which he was lacking a couple of months ago. The country had there were mass grievances against the Prime Minister and his team in relation to inflation, misgovernance, and a number of other issues in Pakistan. Now, he's definitely going to be deriving the political mileage from this to go into the next election and to somehow get the absolute majority which he requires to be able to govern effectively in Pakistan.
Yes, Major Dhruv Katoch, looking at the situation from India, if you remember a couple of years ago when Imran Khan came to power, there was this talk of a hybrid regime, the army and the government is on the same page, but that seems to have changed for now. Nobody talks about the hybrid regime and same page anymore.
Thank you, Zafar. Yes, you're right. Nobody talks of that. But you see, the fundamental point as far as the India-Pakistan equation is concerned is that it really doesn't matter which is the political regime, which is the political party in power in Pakistan, because the foreign relations as far as Pakistan is concerned, with respect to a few countries like the United States, China, and India, is handled by the army. So if the army is going to handle foreign relations with specific countries, then it really doesn't matter what the political authority does. That is one. Number two, internally, it's internally also, if there is a conflict of interest between what the elected prime minister has stated or the government in power has stated and what the army wants, then the decision will always turn in favor of the military. Of course, if there is a commonality of interest, then both the political authority and the military will move in the same direction. Now, in this particular case, I personally feel that as far as Mr. Imran Khan is concerned, who's now the caretaker prime minister, I think he has gone horribly wrong in putting his own personal interests above the interest of his country. And he should have gone in for the vote, regardless of the fact that he would have lost it or not. He would have actually maintained his political credentials. Now, he has not done that. And I think he has put the Supreme Court of Pakistan in a very, very embarrassing situation, because there are three premier institutions now. The Assembly is a premier institution of Pakistan. So is the office of the president, and so is the office of the Chief Justice. Now, the Chief Justice has to adjudicate on what the Parliament, what the Assembly has done, and which the president has approved. And I want to take your mind back to what happened in the 1950s, because there is a question of precedents, which is very, very dangerous. Now, in the 1950s, when the first coup took place in Pakistan, the Supreme Court of Pakistan justified that coup in terms of the doctrine of necessity. I think that was a very bad ruling on the part of the Apex Court of Pakistan, talking about a doctrine of necessity, which really gave great power to the army to say that, listen, it is necessary. Now, the same situation prevails now, where Mr. Imran Khan and his team have categorically stated that all the opposition chaps have been bought by foreign powers. Now, that is a very wide, sweeping statement, which is unacceptable. And while the Supreme Court has the Pakistan Supreme Court has turned it down, I really don't know what the ruling is going to be, as the speaker before has said. So if they, after having turned it down, they still allow it to pass, I think we are treading on a very dangerous precedent once again in Pakistan, by which the Prime Minister and his Speaker, or the Deputy Speaker, whoever is there at that point, you can actually subvert any institution. You can even subvert the Election Commission of Pakistan by saying that, listen, they are aligned with foreign powers. So where does this end? I think we've got to let, the people have voted a particular section of people into the assembly. We have to have faith. Democracy is that act of faith. And I think that act of faith must be allowed to run in Pakistan for the good of the people of Pakistan. Zafar.
Purely looking at it from the political point of view, from the point of view of Imran Khan, he was under a lot of pressure due to inflation, due to price rise, due to other problems in Pakistan. But he sort of changed the narrative. Now he says that it's the foreign power, a foreign hand, which in collaboration with the local leaders wants to topple its government. And nobody's talking about price rise, inflation. It's the foreign conspiracy that's being focused on at this point in time. So don't you think a clever politics by Imran Khan, whether it help him or not, but a clever tactic by him to clearly divert the attention of the people. If at all there are early elections, though, this will be the main point that he will be talking on, and not the other real issues.
Thank you for inviting me to the show. So, I'll just refer to what the Chief Justice of Pakistan said today. He specifically highlighted the economic situation in Pakistan and giving the example of what is happening in Sri Lanka. So it appears that the Supreme Court and the Chief Justice and other justices, they are also concerned about the current economic crisis in Pakistan.
Yeah.
On the other hand, when we talk about the neutrality of the army, even today the opposition asked the army to talk about the neutrality and share its stand on this whole issue. But so far they have not shared that stand. However, we should look at the General Qamar Bajwa's speech recently at Islamabad Security Dialogue, where he specifically mentioned that US-Pakistan relations are extremely important. He went to the extent of calling the Russian actions in Ukraine as the invasion. So to me, it appears that both these institutions are actually worried about the economic situation in Pakistan, and we must not forget that a lot of that depends on how the West and the US, react on Pakistan's economic crisis. When we talk about the currently paused IMF bailout, and Pakistan is in grey list as well, FATF. So the army as well as Supreme Court, I think they are playing safe. Army has also done the damage control after that whole speech of General Bajwa. For Imran Khan, this whole narrative of foreign involvement is the only plank he can actually win the elections, if there's going to be fresh elections in Pakistan. On economic crisis, he can't say much. We have the figures. I mean, there are every day there are reports. Even today, there is a report by State Bank of Pakistan, which suggests this economic situation in Pakistan is going to get worse in the coming months. So whether he gets elected, if there's going to be fresh elections, we'll have to see. My assessment is that I think the army will chip in some ways. We don't know or can't really predict at this moment.
Yes, and also there are reports already that some of the prominent opposition leaders, Shahbaz Sharif, Maulana Fazlur Rahman, they've already met the army chief over the last couple of days. Our Pakistani friends would clarify that. And also Shahbaz Sharif said that he, in fact, asked the army chief and the premier intelligence agency of Pakistan to really put across their point of view what they had said in that minutes of meeting in that security meeting. So clearly, army cannot be discounted from the picture. It's very much there. But now we, how all of this started. This was sort of an anticlimax. There was this vote of no confidence that seemed favoring the opposition parties. They clearly had the numbers, but Imran Khan had. His government had set the plot in a way that it was that they were sort of shocked. They were taken aback. They didn't have a clue what happened. So before we go further, I would like to play that soundbite of the Deputy Speaker in the Assembly on that particular
की तरीका आइन कानून और रूल्स के मुताबिक होना जरूरी है। किसी गैर मुल्की ताकत को यह हक नहीं कि वो साजिश के तहत पाकिस्तान के अवाम की मुंतखब हुकूमत को गिराए। वजीर कानून ने जो नुकात उठाए हैं वो दुरुस्त है, वैलिड है। लिहाजा मैं रूलिंग देता हूं कि अदम एतमाद की करारदाद आइन और कौमी मुख्तारी व आज़ादी से मुनाफी है और रूल्स और ज़ाब्ते के खिलाफ है। ये करारदाद में मुस्तरद डिसअलाउ करने की रूलिंग देता हूं। ईवान की कार्रवाई रोक की जाए।
You heard it there. He just disallowed the motion, and that's it. And then the Supreme Court took a suo motu notice of this case, and ever since we have seen these developments taking place. But in the meantime, Imran Khan has been going to the people. He has been having those large public gatherings where he has been telling people, one of the gatherings he took a verse from the Quran and made the theme of that gathering, Amar bil Maruf and Nahi Anil Munkar, that you stand for the right and stand against the evil. So you can see, the narrative that's being built by Imran Khan. But suppose if today the court reinstates the assembly, then you go back to the square one. Then again the no confidence. Then there will be a voting or no confidence, and that could mean that government led by the opposition parties, which are opposition parties right now, could come into place, and that will. How will the situation change? After that, that's an important question that would like to ask our Pakistani guest Azim But. आपको क्या लगता है अगर इस तरह के हालात हुए तो क्या लगता है कि इमरान खान ने जो एक पूरा एक नैरेटिव बिल्ड किया, ये नैरेटिव पूरा खत्म हो जाएगा उसके बाद?
देखें, ये बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ है और मैंने जिस तरह पहले भी कहा कि असल चीज़ तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट के लिए इम्तिहान की ये है कि वो सिर्फ एक वन लाइनर वर्डिक्ट ना दें, बल्कि ये बताएं कि अगर वो ये वर्डिक्ट दे रहे हैं, जिस तरह के उनके रिमार्क्स से जाहिर हुआ, अभी तो उनका फैसला आना है, मैं उसके ऊपर कमेंट नहीं करूंगा, बट ये जो उनके रिमार्क्स थे कि रूलिंग गलत है, ये साबित हो चुका। जब रूलिंग गलत है तो उसके बाद आप देखें कि उस रूलिंग की बुनियाद के ऊपर ये तमाम चीज़ें जो है वो हुई हैं। तो जब रूलिंग बुनियाद ही गलत हो गई तो फिर सुप्रीम कोर्ट का वो इजलास, वो नेशनल असेंबली का जो वो इजलास है नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन का, वो वहीं से स्टार्ट होगा। अगर वो वहीं से स्टार्ट होता है तो हम 3 अप्रैल वाली सिचुएशन में पहुंच जाते हैं असेंबली में। तो 3 अप्रैल जो है वो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली देखा जाए तो वोटिंग डे था नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन के ऊपर। अब नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन के ऊपर बड़ी वाजिया अक्सरियत जो है वो हासिल है ऑपोजिशन के पास, ऑलमोस्ट 199 के करीब या 190 के करीब जो है वो उनके पास मेंबर्स हैं। तो वोटिंग होती है तो दोबारा जो है वो हम ये देखते हैं कि जो शहबाज शरीफ है वो वजीर आजम बनते हैं। अगर वो वजीर आजम बनते हैं तो उसके बाद की क्या सिचुएशन होगी? अभी ये सारी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली अगर आप इन सारी चीजों को देखेंगे तो ये बड़ी एक अलार्मिंग सी सिचुएशन है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट कहाँ मुदाखलत करेगी, सुप्रीम कोर्ट कहाँ से हमें रास्ते बताएगी कि आया मैंने ये वर्डिक्ट दे दिया, मैंने ये फैसला दे दिया, अब उसके बाद आपने जमहूरियत को कैसे चलाना है ये भी क्या हमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट बताएगी? कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के मुताबिक असम्बली का क्या रोल बनता है क्या ये भी हमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट बताएगी? क्या 3 अप्रैल वाली सिचुएशन पे हम वापस आ जाएंगे ये भी सुप्रीम कोर्ट हमें बताएगी? क्या वो जो रूलिंग है जिसके तहत आप ये देखें कि 197 मेंबर्स जो कि ऑपोजिशन के थे, जो कि असेंबली के इलेक्टेड मेंबर्स हैं, उनको गद्दार कहा गया, क्या उस रूलिंग के तहत जो मामलात हुए हैं उसके ऊपर भी कोई चार्जेस फ्रेम होंगे ये भी हमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट बताएगी? ये तमाम चीजें, मुझे तो नहीं लगता है कि आज के फैसले में ये तमाम चीजें मुमकिन होंगी बताना, ये भी बहुत लंबा चलने वाली चीज है। मुझे नहीं लगता है कि आज के फैसले से हम असेंबली को उसी तरह दोबारा जो है वो पटरी के ऊपर चढ़ा देंगे और असेंबली जो है वो दोबारा कल से जो है वो दोबारा बहाल हो जाएगी और फिर जो है वो हम देखेंगे कि असेंबली के इजलास की जो है वो कार्रवाइयां चलेगी। अभी इसके अंदर बहुत सी चीजें बाकी हैं। अगर सुप्रीम कोर्ट वर्डिक्ट दे भी देता है तो उसके बाद इतनी ज्यादा चीजें मौजूद हैं जिनके ऊपर सवालिया निशान है, क्वेश्चन मार्क्स हैं कि उनको कैसे हल करना है, वो अभी तक समझ में नहीं आता है। अगर असेंबली बहाल होती है तो किस बुनियाद पे होती है? असेंबली अगर बहाल होती है तो उसके अंदर नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन की वोटिंग होती है या नहीं होती है? अगर होती है तो प्राइम मिनिस्टर जो है वो डी-सीट होते हैं, फिर उसके बाद जो प्रेसिडेंशियल ऑर्डर्स आए हैं वो कहाँ स्टैंड करते हैं? प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ पाकिस्तान जो है वो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ पाकिस्तान के मुताबिक एक अलहदा इख्तियारात रखता है, वो एक अलहदा मसला है कि भाई प्रेसिडेंट ने जो अपने प्रेसिडेंशियल जो ऑर्डर्स जारी किए हैं उनको कौन चैलेंज करेगा, कहाँ चैलेंज करेगा, वो कहाँ स्टैंड करेंगे? ये बहुत लंबा चलने वाली चीज है। ये हमें लग रहा है कि आज फैसला होगा, फैसला अगर आज हो भी जाता है तो वो वन लाइनर होगा, या अगर डिटेल वर्डिंग भी आएगी तो उसके अंदर बहुत सारे पॉइंट्स अभी क्वेश्चन मार्क होगा, उसके अंदर मजीद उसको हम आगे लेके चलेंगे। आज मामला कम से कम सूरत हाल क्लियर होने नहीं जा रही है, मुझे तो ऐसा लगता है।
Hassan Aslam, Shad, the sense that one got on that day, the things happened at such a fast pace, that no confidence motion was disallowed. Minutes later, Imran Khan made a brief speech that he said that he has passed on an advice to the president for the dissolution of the assembly. President had 48 hours to act on that, but the president immediately acted on that. The assembly was dissolved, and then things have happened. One gets a sense that all this was done so quickly to make this whole process irreversible. Even if the verdict comes, verdict goes against what Imran Khan really intend to do. So many things have happened. It would just be it will be difficult to take all those steps back one by one. What's the sense that you make?
No, that is absolutely correct. I think it is indeed possible that the idea was to take these steps at such a fast pace that you cannot undo whatever you have done. That could have been part of the strategy. But allow me to just add a few things here, just a few points made by some other speakers here. Firstly, this word has been used very commonly in a particular segment of Pakistan's politicians as well as in the foreign media, that Imran Khan has made some sort of a conspiracy theory out of this. It's debatable. Nobody has seen that demarche that came from the US, which, as per the Prime Minister, as per his foreign minister and the other ministers, contains threatening language to the Prime Minister. Of course, correlation does not mean causation. It's absolutely necessary to establish a link whereby it has to be proven beyond any shadow of doubt that there are indeed people in Pakistan, in the political ranks of Pakistan, who are colluding with the narrative. That is what has been alleged. Now, that is something that requires a detailed investigation, for which one of Pakistan's courts, ideally the Supreme Court, would have to establish some sort of a joint investigation team. But but these things take time in a country like Pakistan, where there is a deep-rooted perception of injustice across all segments of society. PTI also feels, as a party, the Prime Minister has also spoken about the fact that a number of cases, corruption cases that have been filed against opposition leaders have not reached a long time ago. So there is obviously that perception. And I think it is because of this perception that the Prime Minister took these drastic steps. I'm not here to defend him or say that, yes, they were constitutional, but there is a history behind this. There was open, purchasing of loyalties of different party politicians across the board by the opposition. Now, this was happening under the eye of the Pakistani courts, and no action could be taken because there was no provision in the constitution for that, or the courts were not willing. So yes, what Imran Khan has done is it's a very drastic step that he has taken. It's debatable if it's constitutional or not. A lot of people would think it's unconstitutional. I respect their view on that. But there is definitely a reason and a basis behind this, and it's not just political sloganeering. It's much more than that. Imran has his grievances, as do his supporters, and they wish to see some change in Pakistani society, whereby the corrupt and those who have looted wealth from Pakistan are actually made to lose at the ballot, if not get sentenced by the courts.
I'll give a bit of a backgrounder. Now, the vote of no confidence was introduced on March 8th, and initially it was some of the allies of Imran Khan who started, siding with the opposition party, and then suddenly there were defectors within Imran Khan's own party, the PTI, who we were seen in the Sindh House in Islamabad. Now, Sindh is ruled by PPP, Pakistan People's Party, and clearly indicating that they had also sided with the opposition parties. Now, Pakistan has introduced a very interesting, coined an interesting word for them. They call them lotas, and they call it lotacracy. Now, all these members were in Sindh House. They had defected from Imran Khan's party. And then clearly it seemed that things are going against Imran Khan. A cornered Imran Khan then started a series of public meetings all across Pakistan. And in one of the meetings, he waved a piece of paper. He said, here in this paper, there are details that there is a foreign conspiracy, a foreign hand. Of course, at that point in time, he didn't name the country. He said that there's a foreign hand which wants to topple my government with the help of local collaborators. And then eventually, he named the country in one of his speeches. He said it's America. And then, of course, he changed the narrative. He said that this is the only reason that his government is forced to go, and he sort of built that narrative from there on. But on the vote of no confidence, on that day, it was Fawad Chaudhry, one of the ministers of Imran Khan's government, who stood up before the voting had to take place. He said that he invoked Article 5, and he said that people about disloyalty to the constitution, he invoked that, and on that basis the Deputy Speaker disallowed the motion, and that really puts all the opposition leaders or opposition people in that, brackets them as disloyal. That's what the opposition leaders are saying, that they are not disloyal. Imran Khan in one of the speeches had said that some have done it intentionally, some unintentionally, but that's the background to all of this. Now, opposition was not clearly expecting this. They were taken aback. It took them some time to gather themselves and to form a strategy, but by that time, Imran Khan had already given the advice to the president to dissolve the assembly. So that was the situation that existed, and then the issue went to the Supreme Court, which is now going to give its verdict in a few minutes from now. But that's the background to all of this. And we've been seeing Imran Khan's ministers and opposition leaders giving statements one after the other. Would like to play some sound bites. First, Bilawal Bhutto, he has been speaking, talking to press, but this is what he said yesterday.
नहीं, एक तो मोराल पता नहीं किसका डाउन है, हमारा तो मोराल डाउन नहीं है. हम बहुत ही खुश है कि जिस शख्स ने मेरे मुल्क के अवाम को इतना परेशान कर दिया, इतना अजाब में डाल दिया, इसको हमने हटा दिया। तो पाकिस्तान पीपल्स पार्टी, आई कांट स्पीक फॉर एवरीवन इन द ऑपोजिशन, इस बात पे कि हमने 3 साल की जिद्दोजहद की, हमने मेहनत किया, हमने कोई गैर जमहूरी रास्ता नहीं अपनाया, जमहूरी हथियार इस्तेमाल करके इस शख्स का मुकाबला किया, और सिर्फ ये रहता है, और हम चाहते हैं, हम जमहूरी लोग हैं तो हम चाहते हैं कि चीज़ें जमहूरी तरीके से हो। फ़र्क तो कान से मैं इधर से पकड़ूँ, इमरान खान चला गया, पर हम इसलिए कि हम जमहूरी लोग हैं तो हम चाहते हैं कि ये मुकम्मल तौर पे एक जमहूरी तरीका से निकले ताकि आगे मुश्किलात ना पैदा हो। इसलिए आज अगर ये प्रेसिडेंट सेट हो तो पार्लियामान आगे कैसे चलेगा, बाकी इदारे कैसे चलेंगे। और जहाँ तक इस्टेब्लिशमेंट की बात है, हम इस बात को मैं बार बार जब तक है अंदाज़ा तो इस बात को हम वेलकम करेंगे कि उनको गैर जानबदार होना चाहिए, उनको एपॉलिटिकल होना चाहिए, शायद वो ये चाहते भी थे। मगर इमरान खान ने हमारा अदम एतमाद के 1-2 दिन पहले वो नेशनल सिक्योरिटी मीटिंग को बुला के वहाँ हमारा फॉरेन ऑफिस का केबल को इस्तेमाल करके, इमरान खान ने उस फोरम को इस्तेमाल करके उनको सियासत में घसीटा।
Well, Bilawal Bhattu, they are saying, of course, that their objective has been served. Imran Khan has been, he won't be the prime minister anymore, and that was the main purpose of their politics for 3 years. But of course, not saying anything about horse trading, about defections, about the allegations of money used to buy Imran Khan's MPs. Whether that's democratic or not, that is the main contention of the members of Imran Khan's party. Fawad Chaudhry, who was the law minister and who stood up in the parliament and invoked Article 5 of the Constitution, this is what he has to say.
मुल्क के जो क्राइसिस है उसका हल तो इलेक्शन ही है, इसके अलावा क्या हो सकता है। अगर आप जो भी कुछ करेंगे, आपने इलेक्शन में जाना है, 2 महीने बाद जाए, 2 महीने पहले जाए।
मौलाना साहब का बयान है उसके अंदर इलेक्शन कमीशन की आईनी जिम्मेदारी है कि वो इंतखाबात कराएगा, क्या ये उसकी खिलाफवर्जी नहीं कर रहे आईन?
नहीं, ये तो संगीन खिलाफवर्जी है, इसका तो कोई जवाब ही नहीं है ये कहने का। इलेक्शन कमीशन की तरफ से ये कहना कि वो 4 महीने होने चाहिए इलेक्शन कराने के लिए, ये तो इलेक्शन कमीशन ने अपने खिलाफ, मैं समझता हूँ, कितना बड़ा एजेंडा खड़ा कर दिया।
Major General Dhruv Katoch, it's getting interesting with every passing day, and now it's reached almost to that climax when the verdict will be announced. Now, Fawad Chaudhry saying that election commission is also not performing its role. It was supposed to conduct the elections in 3 months. Now, election commission is saying that it will take more time. So, where are the things heading there? If such a situation persists for long, then perhaps the army may step in, and that may be the only option here, some would say.
Very frankly, in this present situation in Pakistan, I don't see the army stepping in. And my logic is very simple. I mean, of course, I'm not fully privy to what is happening in Pakistan. Our guests from Pakistan are much more aware of that situation. But purely from the point of view of an analyst who studies the country, my reading is this, that there are 3 critical issues which are facing Pakistan today. One is the economy, which has become worse after Imran Khan took over. The second is the state of internal security, which too has deteriorated over the last 3 years. And the third is their foreign affairs, the way the foreign affairs have been conducted. And I think there has been a deterioration in that, in the sense that even Saudi Arabia and the Emirates now are not siding with Pakistan, and America and the West are going on the other side. So for some strange reason, Pakistan seems to have, the present government has burnt its, fingers even on the field of foreign policy. Now, for the army to step in and over the next 3 to 6 months to say that they will improve the situation is not going to happen. It's going to get worse. There are some things which can only be resolved by political authorities. And I think this is one of them. If you have to carry out something with the economy or with foreign policy or with internal security, you need politics. The army is the wrong agency. Army is not going to get involved. But ultimately, I'm actually I don't have too much support as far as Bilawal Bhutto is concerned. But the one point which he has made, on precedent, I am a very strong believer in precedents, because they can be misconstrued so badly that you set a wrong precedent today, everybody will start following that line. Now, one of the questions which was raised was, and I want to emphasize this point, that letter which was given by the Foreign Office, which was, where they did whatever they did. I mean, can you imagine, Zafar, in India, the Deputy NSA of the United States comes to this country and threatens us that if you don't side with, and we told that chap to buzz off, period. Now, the Pakistan can very well have told the American Foreign Office, whoever gave that letter, to buzz off. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't mean that 180 or 190 legislatures have taken a bribe. I don't think Pakistan should put themselves into such a position to tell their people that every single legislator of ours can be bought. It is not true. I do not have such a low opinion of politicians. In fact, I hold them in very high esteem. They've got the most difficult job to do is what the politicians do. And they have to take all the blame on their shoulders. So to say that, every Pakistani legislator is a traitor, or at least those who oppose Imran Khan is a traitor, I think that is stretching it a bit too far. But let us say we give the whole thing a spin, and the Supreme Court actually moves in favor of the opposition parties. Then will the act of overturning a constitution based on Article 5 be considered as an act of treason? And will Imran Khan, the Deputy Speaker, be arrested? Now, that is also open. We don't know what's going to happen. But I think
that's in fact a big question. That's really catching the pulse of it. If that happens, then of course Imran Khan, the speaker, the deputy speaker, will be held for treason. That's very important, because here the things have gone very, very extreme. There are two extremes, but about the latter part, that Imran Khan and his party members are saying that it was a cable. He in fact named the American official Donald Lu. He said that he in fact said that it was mentioned, no confidence motion is repeatedly mentioned in that letter, and it said that if the no confidence motion against Imran Khan succeeds, then Pakistan will have a smooth sailing. But if it fails and Imran Khan doesn't go, then there will be difficulties for Pakistan. That is what they allege, Imran Khan and his party members. But it's very difficult to say what exactly was said and what was the conversation about. But they say that's the minutes of the meeting. Saral Sharma, in this polarized atmosphere, do you think there is a way forward for some sort of a politicians, they can come together and they can carry forward when things have gone so bad that today reading some newspaper report that a lot of police personnel have been called and they are sort of in Lahore and in other places.
So if you remember that Shahbaz Sharif mentioned this idea of having a national government when this whole no confidence motion.
But except PTI, he said national government except Imran Khan's party.
Except Imran Khan. But if fresh elections are going to take place, my assessment is that this whole national government and the opposition unity might suffer, because they are going to fight elections, especially in Sindh, where MQMP will fight elections. Is it possible that they are going to have a peaceful, deal with PPP if there's going to be fresh elections? And what about PMLN in Punjab? And what about Maulana's party in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa? So, way forward, to me, it looks like, as even Supreme Court, based on Supreme Court's remarks as well, that even they are worried about the near future of Pakistan. Especially this sort of like khichdi government, if it comes to power. So whether that will bring political stability in Pakistan or not. If it won't, then the economic situation will also suffer. So both the army and the Supreme Court are keeping all these things in mind. I think based on all these things and decisions taken in the last 1 week over no confidence motion, and Imran Khan's surprise, etc., and the foreign involvement part, which I must say was a very dangerous move by Imran Khan, because he just sort of like jeopardized the Pakistan's foreign policy altogether. And there was an article in Tribune as well, I think yesterday, where it suggested some sources within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that if we'll start sharing these cables and the matter which is given in these cables, it will come out in the open, then everyone will be absolutely surprised, because as General Katoj also mentioned about US NSA telling us, sort of like threatening us about the consequences of us continue to buy oil from Russia. So I feel that Imran Khan just used that foreign involvement part. He had no other reason to save his government, economy absolutely in dire situation. And this whole part about Lota, and that him feeling angry about these defections, but these things happen even in PTI government. There are like leaders from other parties as well who were part of the PTI government. So for now, I mean, to me it seems if the fresh elections take place, and let's just say, I mean, PTI wins the majority number of the seats, I don't see Imran Khan as the prime ministerial face from the PTI, since I mean there are some clear differences between the establishment and Imran Khan at this moment over this whole foreign involvement and the US involvement.
Azim, but why is it taking so long for the verdict to be pronounced? I suppose it was to be pronounced about half an hour or more than that ago. Why is it taking so long? इतना टाइम क्यों लग रहा है? आप म्यूट पे है, म्यूट अनम्यूट करें.
नो
हाँ
अच्छा, मैंने पहले भी बताया कि हमारे जो है ना वो इतना इजी नहीं है. इसकी हम ये देख रहे हैं कि ठीक है, इस वक्त पाकिस्तान जो है वो एक बड़े तारीखी दौर से ज़रूर गुजर रहा है, क्योंकि ये जो जजमेंट आएगी ये आने वाले 5 साल, 10 साल, 15, 20, 50 साल में एक स्टैंडर्ड तो सेट करेगी. क्या आया ऐसा नहीं है कि स्पीकर की कुर्सी पे बैठा हुआ कोई भी शख्स कोई भी रूलिंग देगा तो वो चैलेंज नहीं हो सकती है. ये तो एक हिस्टोरिक मोमेंट है, और इसका आने वाले दिनों में, आने वाले सालों में पाकिस्तान की हिस्ट्री में हवाला भी दिया जाएगा. लेकिन सुप्रीम कोर्ट के लिए इतना इजी नहीं है कि इन तमाम सिनेरियो के अंदर जो है वो एक बड़ी ओपन सी जो है वो जजमेंट दे दे. अभी जिस तरह सैरल ने बात की है कि बहुत सी चीज़ों को देखना पड़ेगा, तमाम चीज़ें जो है वो ये एक दूसरे से इंटरलिंक्ड है. ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ एक जजमेंट दी जाए कि रूलिंग जो है वो गलत है और वर्डिक्ट आ गई और जजमेंट आ गई एंड दैट्स इट. नहीं, अगर इस तरह होगा तो फिर उसके पीछे के तमाम मुहर्रिकात जो हैं वो भी जो है वो रूल आउट हो जाएंगे और आने वाले जो मामलात हैं वो भी ख़राब हो जाएंगे. अब ऐसा नहीं है कि इलेक्शन जो है वो 3 महीने में हो जाएंगे, जिस तरह फवाद चौधरी साहब ने कहा कि ये तो इलेक्शन कमीशन ने अपने खिलाफ ही एक पिंडोरा बॉक्स खोल लिया, बट ऐसा नहीं है. इलेक्शन कमीशन ने रियलिटी बताई है. चूंकि आपके यहाँ पर सूबा सिंध के अंदर और एमकेएम पाकिस्तान की बात हुई, तो एमकेएम का सबसे बड़ा एतराज़ पिछले 3.5 साल में रहा ही ये है कि उनकी जो मर्दमशुमारी है, जो काउंटिंग है लोगों की कराची के अंदर, वो दुरुस्त नहीं की गई है. कहीं ज़्यादा लोग कराची में पाए जाते हैं, लेकिन जो हमारा आइडेंटिटी का जो सीन है सारा पाकिस्तान का, जिसके अंदर काउंटिंग होती है लोगों की, उसमें नंबर्स पूरे नहीं है. तो ये कोई छोटी बात नहीं है कि आपने अपनी पॉपुलेशन को जो है वो कंप्लीट मेजर ही नहीं किया और आप नए इलेक्शन में जा रहे हैं. तो न्यू इलेक्शन इतनी जल्दी अनाउंस कर देना ये सुप्रीम कोर्ट का काम अव्वल तो है ही नहीं. पहली बात तो ये सुप्रीम कोर्ट का काम नहीं है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ये अनाउंस करे कि जी फौरी तौर पे आप इलेक्शन करवाएं. ये काम है एक असेंबली का, एक प्रेसिडेंट का. लेकिन असेंबली जो डिसॉल्व हुई है वही अगर गैर आईनी तौर पे जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के खिलाफ जाके अगर हुई है तो फिर वो कहाँ पर स्टैंड करेगी ये देखना पड़ेगा. अच्छा, जहाँ तक फैसला है, फैसला आना इतना इजी नहीं है. इस वक्त हमारे पास जो मेरे पास अभी इतलात आ रही हैं उसके मुताबिक तो ये है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट के इर्द गिर्द और ब्लू एरिया इस्लामाबाद का जितना है उसके अंदर सिक्योरिटी हर बढ़ते मिनट के साथ जो है वो बढ़ाई जा रही है. सिक्योरिटी जो है वो फुल ऑन जो है वहाँ पर बढ़ाई जा रही है. हमें नहीं पता है कि क्या डिसीजन आना है, और हमारे यहाँ अनफॉर्चुनेटली ऐसा होता है कि हम रिमार्क्स के ऊपर बिलीव करते हैं लेकिन रिमार्क्स के बिल्कुल उल्ट फैसला आ जाता है. तो अभी तक तो जो रिमार्क्स चल रहे हैं हम उसके मुताबिक बात कर रहे हैं कि शायद स्पीकर की रूलिंग जो है वो रूल आउट हो जाएगी, बट ऐसा नहीं है. जो फाइनल डिसीजन है सुप्रीम कोर्ट का, क्या न जाने क्या करे, कोई पता नहीं है। वो सुप्रीम कोर्ट का अपना इख्तियार है, अपना एक उसका वो लेवल है, वो कुछ भी कर सकती है। तो अभी फिलहाल तो ये इतलात आ रही है कि सिक्योरिटी बढ़ाई जा रही है और ऑपोजिशन के जो रहनुमा है वो एक जगह इकट्ठे हो गए हैं। ये कहा जा रहा है कि तमाम ऑपोजिशन जो है वो किसी एक जगह पे इकट्ठी हो गई है। कोई मेन स्ट्रीम की लीडरशिप जो है वो इस वक्त सुप्रीम कोर्ट में मौजूद नहीं है, बल्कि वो एक खास जगह पर मौजूद है, इस्लामाबाद में किसी के घर में मौजूद है या जहाँ पे भी मौजूद है, और सुप्रीम कोर्ट का फैसला वो वहां बैठ के इकट्ठे सुनेंगे और उसके बाद जो भी होगा उसका रद्द अमल जो है वो तैयार किया जाएगा। इसी तरह हम देख रहे हैं कि इमरान खान साहब ने भी बड़ी सॉफ्ट किस्म की बट अपने कारकुनान को जो है वो अपने सपोर्टर्स को जो है वो कॉल दी हुई है कि आपने बाहर निकलना है, आपने जो है वो एहतजाज प्रोटेस्ट जो है वो करना है। तो ये हर तरह से सूरत हाल जा रही है। फिर उसके बाद आज ही तस्करा सुप्रीम कोर्ट में रिमार्क्स के अंदर हुआ जरूर है कि हमारा जो पैसे की जो कदर है वो गिरती जा रही है, डॉलर जो है वो इंक्रीज करता जा रहा है और इकोनॉमिकली जो सिचुएशन है वो बहुत कम हो रही है। फिर स्टॉक एक्सचेंज के जो मामला हैं वो बड़े खतरनाक होते जा रहे हैं। तो अगर आप सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जो डिसीजन है वो पाकिस्तान में सिर्फ जो हमारी असम्बली है उसके ऊपर इम्पैक्ट नहीं कर रहा है, जो हमारी डेमोक्रेसी है सिर्फ उसके ऊपर इम्पैक्ट नहीं कर रहा है, बल्कि ये आने वाले तमाम सूरत हाल के ऊपर जो है वो एक फैसला साबित होगा कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट जो डिसीजन देगी मुल्क की सूरत हाल, चाहे वो जो है वो मुआशरत के हिसाब से हो, इकोनॉमी के हिसाब से हो, या वो दिफा के लिहाज से हो, वो किसी भी लिहाज से हो, वो बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंस जो है वो रखती है। तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट को डेफिनेटली ये चीजें मालूम है और सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बड़ा वाजिया किया है अपने रिमार्क्स में कि हमें इससे कोई लेना देना।
And Aslam Saab, the sense one got that opposition parties were always insisting on fresh election, that Imran Khan to go. That has happened. But now, why do they want to be there to be in power for 6 months or 3 months, and then in the end there will be elections? PTI members are saying they want to make certain change as far as electronic voting is concerned. They are not in favor of that. They don't want overseas Pakistanis to have voting rights. Do you think there is a lot of politics there as well?
Yes, of course, there is a lot of politics at play. But I didn't. If you don't mind, can you rephrase your question, because I didn't understand the question?
Yes, I was saying that opposition parties always insisted that Imran Khan should go and there should be fresh elections. Now that has happened. Technically, Imran Khan is gone, and he's also dissolved the assembly, and there will be fresh elections. Now, why are they insisting that they want to be in power with all these parties all together, with all their contradictions and differences for 3 months or 6 months? Imran Khan and his party saying that they want to be there to make certain change in the fundamentals, like as far as voting rights to overseas Pakistanis are concerned, electronic voting machines, because all that doesn't go in their favor. Otherwise, Bilawal Bhutto says that it doesn't matter. We wanted Imran Khan to go. We struggled for that, and he's gone now. So why are they insisting that they want to be in power for 6 months or 3 months at the most? Because in any case, the assembly is completing its term.
Right. So that is a very good point. And this is the point that PTI has been making. The Prime Minister has been making this point also. He has been saying that, look, I've been working on certain reforms in the country, despite the fact that there are certain parts of the economy which have not really recovered under Imran Khan. There are other things he has done in the country which are more long term. Pakistan and China's CPEC phase 2 has recently commenced. The Prime Minister has done, a landmark thing in Pakistan, which is to give a health card to every citizen of Pakistan, which basically shows free medical, coverage for everyone across the country, barring the province of Sindh, where the People's Party is in government. So he says that I have done all these things. Why don't you wait for another 6 months? So this in itself doesn't make any sense, and this is very strange and very odd that these parties want to come into power at this stage by overthrowing Imran Khan and then take over the economy in whatever form and shape it is in today, which is not very good, and then go to the election. So this is what is very odd. And I personally, having looked at the political developments in the past 6 to 8 months in Pakistan, I do feel that there really was some sort of a regime change operation in
Okay, hold your thoughts. I think the verdict is being pronounced.
पूरी कौम की वो सामने आ चुका है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट की तरफ से ऐसा कहा गया है कि डेप्यूटी स्पीकर की रूलिंग को कलअदम करार दे दिया गया। फैसले में कहा गया है कि असेंबली तहलील करने की कोई आईनी हैसियत नहीं है, ऐसा कहा गया है सुप्रीम कोर्ट की जानिब से। वो फैसला जिस पर पूरी कौम की नजरें लगी हुई थी, बेताबी और बेचैनी के साथ इंतजार किया जा रहा था, इंतजार की घड़ियां खत्म हुई। सुप्रीम कोर्ट की जानिब से एक इंतहाई अहम फैसला सामने आया है। उनकी जानिब से कहा गया है कि डेप्यूटी स्पीकर की रूलिंग को कलअदम करार दे दिया गया। साथ ही साथ फैसले में यह कहा गया है कि इस असेंबली को तहलील करने की कोई आईनी हैसियत नहीं है।
आपको अहम खबर से आगाह कर रहे हैं। आपको बताएं कि अदालत उज़्मा की जानिब से 3 अप्रैल को कौमी असेंबली के इजलास के अंदर डिप्टी स्पीकर की जानिब से आर्टिकल 5 को इस्तेमाल करते हुए जो रूलिंग दी गई थी उस पर समाअत हो रही थी। आज 5 रोज तक ये समाअत जारी रही और उसके बाद ये इंतहाई अहम फैसला सामने आ गया है और इस फैसले के अंदर डिप्टी स्पीकर कासिम खान सूरी की जानिब से जो रूलिंग दी गई थी उसको कलअदम करार दे दिया गया है। लार्जर बेंच की जानिब से सुप्रीम कोर्ट के ये फैसला सुनाया गया है। आपको बताएं कि इस बेंच के अंदर चीफ जस्टिस उमर अता बिंदयाल इसकी सरबराही कर रहे थे। दीगर जजेस में जस्टिस एजाजुल एहसन, जस्टिस मुनीब अख्तर, जस्टिस मजहर आलम और जस्टिस जमाल खान मंदोखेल शामिल थे और आज ये अहम फैसला सामने आ चुका है जिसमें डिप्टी स्पीकर की रूलिंग को कलअदम करार देते हुए ये कहा गया है कि कौमी असेंबली तहलील होने की कोई भी आईनी हैसियत नहीं है।
लार्जर बेंच की जानिब से अहम तरीन फैसला सामने आ चुका है। कौमी असेंबली तहलील होने की कोई आईनी हैसियत नहीं है। डेप्यूटी स्पीकर की रूलिंग को कलअदम करार दे दिया गया है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने अपना फैसला जारी कर दिया है। उनका यह कहना है कि कौमी असेंबली तहलील होने की कोई आईनी हैसियत नहीं है। लार्जर बेंच की जानिब से यह अहम तरीन फैसला सामने आया है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट की जानिब से कहा गया है कि कासिम खान सूरी ने जो रूलिंग दी है उसको कलअदम करार दे दिया गया है और कहा गया है कि जो असेंबलियां तहलील की गई हैं उसकी कोई आईनी हैसियत नहीं है, ऐसा कहा गया है सुप्रीम कोर्ट की जानिब से। वो फैसला जिस पर पूरी कौम की नजरें लगी हुई थी और बैनुल-अक़वामी मीडिया भी इस पर नजरें जमाए बैठा था, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने अपना फैसला दे दिया है और अपने फैसले में लार्जर बेंच का यह कहना है कि डेप्यूटी स्पीकर की रूलिंग को कलअदम करार दिया जाए और फैसले में ऐसा भी कहा गया है कि जो असेंबलियां तहलील की गई हैं उसकी कोई आईनी हैसियत नहीं है। अदालत उज़्मा की जानिब से अहम तरीन फैसला सामने आ चुका है और हम आपके साथ शेयर कर रहे हैं।
आपको आगाह करें, आज अदालत उज़्मा की जानिब से इंतहाई अहम फैसला सामने आया है और इस फैसले के अंदर यह करार दिया गया है कि डिप्टी स्पीकर की जानिब से 3 अप्रैल को जो रूलिंग दी गई वो गैर आईनी थी। इसके साथ साथ आपको यह भी आगाह करें, सुप्रीम कोर्ट की जानिब से कौमी असेंबली को बहाल कर दिया गया है। ये बराह रास्त बना
very dramatic developments there. The assembly has been reinstated. So, and and deputy speakers, not allowing that confidence motion has now been reversed by the Supreme Court. Now, this raises important questions. Hassan Aslam Shah, if you can hear me, there are two questions. That now, if the assembly is reinstated, will there be a fresh no confidence motion, and will any action be taken against the deputy speaker, the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister Imran Khan, and the president, because they introduced a series of events? Will there be any charge imposed on them now?
So yes, there's this the statement that the National Assembly has been reinstated implies that it would go back to the status quo ante, which means that there will again be a no confidence vote. But I think we have to wait and see what is the remedy that has been granted by the court. I believe this is only part of the decision that has been announced, and we have to wait till we hear out the entire decision because look, at the end of the day, the Supreme Court, I believe, is doing a very delicate balancing act. It has to give both parties the some sort of a face saving. It had no choice but to declare that the quashing of the no confidence motion was unconstitutional, which it has done. And if it goes on to say that the National Assembly has been reinstated, we really have to wait and see because it's going on at the moment. It's in progress. So a lot depends on what more pronouncements come out from the Supreme Court.
But your initial thought, it's a big setback for Imran Khan?
Look, I know it for a fact that a lot of people in Pakistan, even in the Prime Minister's party, were expecting that the court would declare the Deputy Speaker's motion to be unconstitutional. So that much is not a surprise. Reinstating the assembly means what? Reinstating means that the no confidence motion stays, or it will be moved again, and then don't forget that the Prime Minister and his party had already prepared their resignations. So this can lead to further chaos in the country, right? I mean, he can again submit his resignations, and then the assemblies get dissolved. So really, it really needs to be seen what more is going to be said by the Supreme Court as it continues
No,
to announce.
but how can he resign now? Because when the no confidence motion is in progress, the Prime Minister cannot resign. He has to face it. Assemblies cannot be dissolved.
Yeah, so you're right. This is a valid point, and as I said, let's see what more the Supreme Court has to say. It's announcing the decision at the moment.
But this means that Supreme Court has superseded the President, the Prime Minister, as well as the Deputy Speaker in its ruling.
Oh, absolutely.
Their ruling has superseded all of them.
Absolutely, because the Supreme Court is the apex court. So at the end of the day, any action taken in Pakistan by any authority, be it the President, be it the Prime Minister, be it any other office holder, is going to be subject to the directives and the orders of the Supreme Court, because it is the apex court.
But we thought Supreme Court can only interpret the law. It cannot supersede any happenings or developments or rulings that happen in the Parliament.
This is the argument that, good point. This is the argument that has been used by the PTI, that there is a firewall. The parliamentary proceedings are not subject to the interpretation of the court. But the court, if it reinstates the National Assembly, then the court is interpreting the Constitution to give it the power to undo an illegal act.
Now the news that we are getting is that Supreme Court has ordered a no confidence motion on April 9. So April 9, there will be a no confidence motion, and then the opposition will, of course, form its government, and Imran Khan will have to go. He had to sit in the opposition, or he will, in any case, if its members tender resignation. That's not the point. The point here is, will any action be taken? Because if it's unconstitutional, that they have abrogated the Constitution. The Deputy Speaker and Imran Khan and President have abrogated the Constitution. It also says that Imran Khan was not within his rights to advise dissolution of assembly. That's what Pakistan Supreme Court has said.
It is a possibility, absolutely, flowing from this decision, this order. It is a distinct possibility that we can see some legal action against the Prime Minister and the Speaker as well.
What can that be? Your guess on that?
I wouldn't be able to guess at this time. I would need to read the judgment. I would need to see what all is being said, and then take a position on this.
Okay. Major General Dhruv Katoch, it was a dramatic day on that day when the motion of no confidence was disallowed and voting was stopped. But more drama today when the assembly has been reinstated and a day has been given for the vote of no confidence. What's the sense that you make out of it? Yeah, you can unmute. If you can unmute.
Yes. Very frankly, I think this is one of the happier days for Pakistan. Not for any other reason. You see, there may be disturbances, there may be street fighting, but the most important thing is constitutional morality has been restored. And I think that is very important, because it is not, we shouldn't really look on April 7th and April 9th. We have to look on it at the long-term basis as to what are the precedents being set. Now this time, the Supreme Court has gone in interpreting the Constitution, I think in a very, in my opinion, I thought it was very well done. And the ball has been thrown back to the Parliament, to the legislature. That, okay, you are the chaps there, now you take a call. So I think I view this very, very positively. As far as the fate of Imran Khan and the Deputy Speaker is concerned, I don't think the President is really involved, because President was really taking the advice of what the Parliament had done, and he's done it. So we leave the President out. But as far as the Assembly, the Deputy Speaker and the Prime Minister is concerned, I think if Article 6 is invoked, then they can be charged for treason. They can be charged with treason. Zafar.
The Supreme Court says that it was an unconstitutional move. It has reinstated the assembly. It has overruled the ruling of the Deputy Speaker. Then obviously the next step would be that if something, a constitution has been abrogated or something unconstitutional has been done in the Parliament, then that will involve repercussion. There will be an action that will be taken. Perhaps Imran Khan and the Deputy Speaker would face treason charges. What do you say, Saral Sharma?
That is a possibility. We'll have to see whether that is going to happen or not. But this ruling is actually a big setback for Imran Khan. The question is who is he going to blame now? Now that the Supreme Court ruling is out and it's against him, and then according to reports, there's going to be no trust motion, voting on no trust motion on April 9th, and then we'll have a new prime minister. So, I mean, for now, it seems that PTI is seeing a major setback here, and their whole argument of foreign involvement may not work now, since it's the Supreme Court's ruling, and it's actually it's an excellent ruling, as General Katos said, that they have actually restored democracy in Pakistan after whatever happened on April 3rd. We'll also have to see the role of the speaker, because there's a no confidence motion against him as well, Asad Kesar. So
Yes.
there are many questions right now which we don't really have answers of, but overall this ruling is actually very positive for the opposition. They are going to elect Shahbaz Sharif most probably as the next prime minister, but anything can happen. We can also see some street protests or some sort of protest by the PTI members, their supporters. But overall, I think it's actually a good development.
But Saral Sharma, do you think it's a tactical move that has backfired on Imran Khan? He tried to cleverly change the narrative, but it was too big a risk to take, and it just backfired.
So first setback was, I would still mention General Qamar Bajwa's speech, where he clearly, stated his point that we can't really have enmity with the US. So that was first. And the second is the Supreme Court's ruling. So both ways, I think Imran Khan is facing a major setback. And politically as well, I think it's going to hurt him, in the future elections. And if there is going to be some sort of like a treason case against him under Article 6, then we'll have to question about his political career.
Absolutely. Maybe he'll be barred from contesting elections. Something like that can happen at least. General Katos, what's the sense that you get? These are dramatic developments, of course, in Pakistan. For the last many days, there have been a flurry of political activities taking place there. But what's the sense? What will Imran Khan do now? What any guesses? He tried to build this narrative. Now it's not worked. The vote of no confidence motion will take place, and most probably Shahbaz Sharif will be the prime minister. What can he do now? He also faces some sort of there could be charge, imposed on him, and it would be just a downslide here on.
I heard Imran Khan's statement when the no confidence motion was abrogated, and he made a statement. He says, "With one ball, I have taken 3 wickets." Yeah. And I made a statement at that time. I said, I believe it is a no ball, and the third umpire is watching. Right now, the third umpire has ruled. The third umpire has ruled now, and I think it would be graceful on the part of Mr. Imran Khan to accept life as it comes, then get back to the people and fight. But fight electorally, fight democratically. Don't do these things by calling everybody who is against you a traitor. It is not that way. Every country has opponents. Like in India, we have got so many political parties. They're all opponents. So just because somebody opposes a particular political party doesn't make them traitors. So everybody is part of, when we're looking at Pakistan, they're all Pakistani legislators. They all have the interests of Pakistan at heart. So it'll be very unfair to say that all the opposition leaders in Pakistan are taking bribes. I think that is being very, very unfair to the Pakistan polity, especially to the people of Pakistan. It doesn't really work that way, and Imran Khan should not have gone down that path. So I think what has happened, in my view, it is a very positive development. It may lead to street disturbances, but we will see. But as a long-term measure, constitutional morality has been restored. And I think that is the most important message which has gone across, ki please go as per the Constitution of Pakistan. And with that message, if all political parties abide by it, I believe it will be to the interest of the people of Pakistan. But ultimately, it is them, they will have to choose their own destiny. Zafar.
Yes, yes. Imran Khan had said, as you put it rightly, एक गेंद से 3 wicket उड़ा दूंगा, and then his favorite two-worder घबराना नहीं है. We have actually his previous bite. If you can play that.
तो कल आपको रिमाइंड करवाना चाहता हूं कि जब मैं शाम को आया था तो मुझे आप सबको कहना पड़ा था घबराना नहीं है. असल में देखें, मैं ज़रा आपको समझाना चाहता हूं कि ये हुआ क्या है, क्योंकि अभी तक वो ऑपोजिशन को समझ नहीं आ रही हुआ क्या है. नहीं, उन्होंने रियलाइज नहीं किया कि जिस वक्त पाकिस्तान की नेशनल सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल ने वाज़े तौर पे कह दिया कि पाकिस्तान की ये जो नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन थी, इसमें से बैरून मुल्क की इंटरफेरेंस थी. नेशनल सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल, जिसमें सारे सिक्योरिटी चीफ्स बैठे हुए थे, सब बैठे हुए थे, उनके सामने पूरा वो जो कम्युनिके था पाकिस्तान के एम्बेसडर अमेरिका में और उनका जो डोनाल्ड लू, जो भी उनका रिप्रेजेंटेटिव था, उसके सारे, ये ऑफिशियल मीटिंग थी. इस ऑफिशियल मीटिंग के नोटेकर्स बैठे हुए थे दोनों तरफ, और वो मिनट्स, वो जो कॉन्वर्सेशन था हमारे एम्बेसडर और उनके ऑफिशियल का, वो सारा कॉन्वर्सेशन फिर जब बताया गया हमारी नेशनल सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल में, तो फिर एक उसके बाद मिनट्स जारी किए गए. उन मिनट्स के अंदर ये चीज़ कंफर्म की गई कि ये एक बाहर से प्लान बना था जिसमें इंटरफेयर किया गया था पाकिस्तान की इंटरनल पॉलिटिक्स में, और ये जो नो कॉन्फिडेंस थी, इसकी बुनियाद बाहर थी. हमने वो चीज़ें लिखी नहीं वहाँ के, कैसे यहाँ एम्बेसी के लोग मिल रहे थे, जो लोग हमारे से जब छोड़ के गए, जो लोटा हुए, तो इनको बाकायदा एम्बेसी के लोग मिलते थे. उनका क्या काम था? देखिए, हेड्स ऑफ कई दफ़ा बात पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज़ के हेड्स को इसलिए मिलते हैं कि वो पूछ सकते हैं मुल्क के सूरत हाल वगैरह, लेकिन इन लोगों को मिलने का उनका क्या था? तो वो सारा कनेक्शन था उसका नो कॉन्फिडेंस मूव, जो कि बाहर से इनिशिएटेड थी. तो जब एक दफ़ा मुल्क की हाईएस्ट सिक्योरिटी बॉडी ये कंफर्म कर देती है, तो उसके बाद तो ये प्रोसीडिंग्स ये इररेलेवेंट थी कि नंबर्स कितने हैं. तो मैं आपको ये बता नहीं सकता था कल रात, क्योंकि मुझे डर ये था कि वो आज वो शौक में ना होते अगर मैं सबको बता देता.
So that was Imran Khan. He was saying that वो आज शौक में ना होते अगर मैं सबको बता देता, but probably he would be in a shock today. He would have never expected that it will be such a huge verdict from Supreme Court that will be sort of a setback to him and to all his strategy that he had implemented so far. But the question is still out there, that what happens, is it now that Imran Khan would probably resign, because of course when the vote of no confidence motion takes place and he loses, he has no other options. But will there be a punishment that will be inflicted on what has happened? This country has been in a state of turmoil and in a state of crisis for all these days. What do you say, Saral Sharma?
So my guess is also that I think he is going to resign before the no confidence motion, or if he wants to use no confidence motion and use the whole narrative of victimhood and foreign involvement, and he can also use the Supreme Court's judgment against him to sort of like garner some political support, because he understands that the elections are due next year if there's going to be a caretaker government or the opposition's government for 1 year, and it will survive for one year. So that is the number one possibility. Second is, I mean, it's still, we have to see whether he'll be tried under the tradition law or not. But it's a big, I think, surprise for him, what he was saying on April 3 to the opposition, that there was going to be a surprise. I think it's a big surprise for him, and in a way, I think it's a positive development. What he will do, and we'll have to see who will be the opposition leader. So far, it looks like it's going to be Shahbaz Sharif, and whether the opposition government will be able to survive, considering their political differences.
Yes, there was another theory making rounds that Imran Khan and all of his members will tender resignation from the assembly, and then it will be just the treasury bench. There is no opposition.
Yes, I mean, that is a possibility, and I think in order to garner more political support, he might use that, because we have seen the kinds of decision, I mean, he has taken in last 1 week or so. So that is one possibility. And then what he can do, he's a good opposition leader. He can create nuisance for the government in the coming days, as we have seen how he protested. He hit the street during the Nawaz Sharif government. So all that he can do if he is allowed to do as the opposition.
Yes, and also if he wants to be the opposition leader.
Or if he wants to be the opposition leader after ruling the country for 3.5 years.
Yes. Major General Dhruv Katoch, do you think that it gives a major boost to the opposition parties, and this plot of being conspirators and there is a foreign conspiracy now gets completely washed away, and they will go to the people, they say the Supreme Court has given them a clean sheet and this will help them?
Yes, absolutely. You see, one thing is very important to remember in this is the momentum which Imran Khan would have got by saying that he stood up for Pakistan against the evil America. Now, that is not going to carry much resonance now, because the opposition can very well say, listen, these are all false charges which Imran Khan was doing to protect his own turf. And the Supreme Court has very correctly ruled on that. So to that extent, the electoral advantage which he was hoping to get, I don't think he's going to get. But having said that, you see, it doesn't matter who comes into Pakistan, they are in a very precarious position. Ultimately, regardless of what we may say, it is the economy and the internal security situation which become the prime movers of what the people want. And even for the new government, as and when it comes in, is going to be very, very difficult to turn Pakistan around. And American assistance is not going to do that. Previously, our guest from Pakistan had said, that the Chinese have come in a big way. I'm afraid I didn't have time to respond there, but listen, China is not going to help any country, least of all Pakistan. China doesn't help anybody. Wherever they give money, they extract the pound of flesh, as Sri Lanka has has learned to great cost. And Pakistan will learn to great cost what CPEC is going to cost them. It's going to cost them Gilgit-Baltistan, and it's going to cost them Gwadar. But those are different issues. For any future government to come, it's going to be very difficult handling Pakistan, especially getting them out of the economic trap which they are in. And one more point which Pakistanis never talk about, you see, is population. Now, why I keep mentioning population is Bangladesh had a larger population than Pakistan, right? Today, Bangladesh is 17 to 18 crores and Pakistan is 22 to 23 crores. 4 crore extra mouths. Now, imagine if Pakistan had 4 crore less people. They would be from the lowest level of society. Their job situation would be much better. Their standard of living would have been much better. You see, they have to control the population. From 22 crores, they'll be getting down to 30 crores. It is unsustainable, whereas Bangladesh is going on a more steady path. So I always compare these two countries when I carry out my comparison, the way Bangladesh is moving and the way Pakistan is moving. And aside other factors of sorting out their economy, their foreign relations, their internal security, I think they have to pay attention to population control. Otherwise, they are going to run into serious trouble, and no government in Pakistan will be able to handle it. Zafar.
So it may be a victory for the opposition parties right now, but they will be facing real issues very soon. When they form the government, the issues of economy, the issues which hit Imran Khan will hit them also. The issues of price rise, the dollar is 180 Pakistani rupees today. So they may not be able to sustain. They will also face a tough situation when they present the budget. Of course, by that time, people might forget what happened in Imran Khan's tenure, but they will be the ones who will be asked the question then. As you say that there are fundamental problems there.
So there are fundamental problems, and it is absolutely correct that they don't really have a magic wand to improve Pakistan's economy immediately or anytime soon. IMI's bailout is suspended. They will also look at the political stability in Pakistan and whether the opposition alliance will be able to provide that stability to Pakistan in the coming months. So for now, I think although the opposition has won this battle for now, but the real battle is going to start when they'll form the government and they'll start handling not just the economic issue. They'll also have to do the damage control, the foreign policy damage control, and its ties with China, the whole CPEC project, where it's heading. There will be pressure from China, and then they'll have to restart from the scratch as far as Pakistan's relations with the West is concerned, especially the US and EU, their main trade partners. So how they are going to do that, and in a situation where you have so many opposition parties coming together, there are going to be differences. They will also look at their provinces, and all of them will have this in their mind that next elections are just 1 year away. So there will definitely be some sort of like tussle there between different ministers from different opposition parties. How they are going to handle it, and also what is more important as well, that how the security establishment, what would be their take on the opposition government. And one thing I would like to mention here is that General Bajwa's tenure is also ending in November. So we'll have to keep all these things in mind. And my assessment is that Pakistan is actually heading towards a bigger political crisis, even if the opposition government comes to power. And when you have, if Imran Khan wants to sit in the opposition, then it will be a very difficult task for the opposition government to actually have a stable government and say and to pass orders, rules in the National Assembly and the Senate. So it's a wait and watch situation for now. But
you can see from those visuals, Shahbaz Sharif really a happy man today. Of course, he's meeting his other members from other parties. They had suffered they were temporarily taken aback, and they were in a state of shock when that motion of vote of no confidence motion was disallowed. But today, these are happy faces. They have really achieved what they wanted. The assembly has been reinstated, and there will be a vote of no confidence motion. And in all likelihood, Shahbaz Sharif will be selected as the leader of the house, and he might become the prime minister. But Major General Dhruv Katoch, Pakistan's relation with other countries, particularly US, now this entire issue of US being brought into this issue, their ambassador's name being taken, do you think there will be, it's a huge challenge for the government also to make amends there also to set the relation on the track? Imran Khan told Americans absolutely not. He said that that's one of the reasons that they were after him. And Shahbaz Sharif said that there was no reason for Imran Khan to say absolutely not. In fact, he said beggars can't be choosers. What's the sense you get?
You see, in my view, as far as Pakistan is concerned, it is not appropriate for any country to cease relations with other countries. You see, as far as Pakistan is concerned, it is important for them to have their relationship with China, as it is for them to have their relationship with the United States and the European Union. Now, for them to say, no, we won't have this relationship with the US and only go with China is going to be disastrous for Pakistan. I've got no doubts in saying, I've got no hesitation in saying that. So for Pakistan, they cannot align themselves with any particular group because they will suffer. They will suffer in the immediate short term, and certainly they will suffer in the long term. So they will have to rebuild their foreign relationships to ensure that they don't get hostility from any of the major powers. You see, and it was very short-sighted on the part of the present government of Pakistan to have built up the state of hostility. So I think they will have to mend their fences with the United States. They will, of course, also have to keep China on the correct side. And more equally importantly, get the Arab states again on their side, because they have spoiled their relationship with Arabia because they went towards Turkey, hoping to get leadership of the Islamic world. So I think on all counts, this particular government has failed. The Imran Khan government, I think, has been a total failure. And every action of Imran Khan has been not to preserve the state of Pakistan. It has to be to preserve the image of Imran Khan. He has confused his image with the welfare of Pakistan. And I think that is something which leaders should really desist from. Zafar.
Yes, clearly an important day, a historical date in that country. Of course, the Supreme Court stepping in and really reversing all that has happened. We were earlier discussing that it would be difficult for Supreme Court to reverse because a lot of things have happened. There have been a series of events, one after the other. The vote of no confidence, the foreign conspiracy, then the disallowing of the vote of no confidence, then Imran Khan advising the president to dissolve the assembly, then assembly is getting dissolved, then a name being circulated of a caretaker prime minister, then in fact that former judge being named as somebody who would be the caretaker prime minister. But all that has been reversed now with just one move, that the assembly has been reinstated, so everything else will be null and void. So clearly a historical day for Pakistan. Of course, the man of the moment, Shahbaz Sharif, because in all likelihood he is going to be the prime minister. He has perhaps spoken. Let's see if we can get that soundbite up.
मैं हज़रत मौलाना साहब की पूरी तायद करता हूँ। अल्लाह ताला का बेपाया फजल करम है और पूरे पाकिस्तान के 22 करोड़ अवाम की दुआएं जो है रब ताला ने कबूल की हैं और अदालत उज़्मा ने एक ऐसा फ़ैसला दिया है जिससे कि न सिर्फ पाकिस्तान का जो आइन है वो बच गया है, पाकिस्तान बच गया है। और अदालत उज़्मा ने ये फ़ैसला दे के अपनी जो उन्होंने अपना वक़ार और अपना उनकी जो इंडिपेंडेंस है उसको 4 चांद लगाए हैं। हम अदालत उज़्मा के बहुत शुक्रगुज़ार हैं कि उन्होंने एक यूनानिमस फ़ैसला दे के पाकिस्तान की आवाम की जो उनकी जो ख्वाहिशात थी उनकी अक्कासी की और पार्लियामान को मजबूत किया है, पार्लियामान का जो सॉवरेनिटी है उसको मजबूत किया है और आइन के तकद्दुस को बहाल किया है। मैं समझता हूँ कि ये एक शहर रमज़ान में ये एक बहुत बड़ा ये मार्का सर किया है पाकिस्तान के 22 करोड़ अवाम ने, मुतहद्दा अपोजिशन ने और तमाम इत्तेहादी पार्टीज़ ने और आवाम के साथ मिलकर ये जो जंग हमने गुर्बत के ख़िलाफ़ लड़नी है, बेरोज़गारी के ख़िलाफ़ लड़नी है और महंगाई के ख़िलाफ़ लड़नी है, ये इंशाअल्लाह हम मिलकर इंशाअल्लाह लड़ेंगे। आज हमें अल्लाह ताला के यहाँ अपना सर को अपना उसके सजदा रेज़ होना है और उसका अपना जितना शुक्र अदा करें वो कम होगा।
शहबाज साहब, आपने एक फैसला किया था कि गैर
और जी ये चूँकि मौलाना साहब ने अभी तरावी के लिए जाना है तो इन्होंने अपनी प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस का हिस्सा डाल दिया। अभी बिलावल भुट्टो साहब तशरीफ ला रहे हैं, फिर हम तमाम जो हैं काबरीन बाकी अभी आपने जाना नहीं, अभी मुतहद्दा अपोजिशन ने करनी है प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस।
आपने कहा था कि आइन तोड़ने की भी सजा होगी, तो इस पे क्या कहेंगे आप?
वो तो अब अदालत उज़्मा का जो फैसला है उसको पढ़ के पर बताएंगे आपको इंशाल्लाह, उसको पढ़ के बताएंगे इंशाल्लाह। तो आप जरा इंतजार कीजिए।
इस्लामाबाद में मौजूद है क्योंकि परसों इजलास बुला लिया सुबह 10 बजे, तैयारी मुकम्मल है।
बस वो हम आपको जेन्युइन सरप्राइज देंगे, जाली सरप्राइज नहीं देंगे।
Genuine surprise and not an artificial surprise. He's saying, obviously, very happy today. It's been their consistent effort to topple, to dislodge Imran Khan. They have been trying to do that, and they sort of came together and they had the vote of no confidence motion. Of course, there was this brief interjection; it was disallowed, and then all this happened. But today, they are back in business, and they will be obviously now the assembly has been reinstated, so there will be voting that will take place. What do you have to say after hearing Shahbaz Sharif?
Well, it was expected, the statement, but as we can see that he's a happy man today from how he was on April 3rd when the Deputy Speaker within 20 minutes gave his decision to uh, nullify the vote of no confidence. So he's a happy man for now, but I'm sure, back of his mind, he's also thinking about the future. What is going to happen now when he'll become the Prime Minister of Pakistan? And specifically, also, he mentioned in his statement the Gurbat part. So he's also worried about the economic situation in Pakistan. Their first priority, as far as I can see, is to find solutions and find short-term solutions and fast solutions. Even the Chief Justice of Pakistan Supreme Court today mentioned in his remarks that the dollar and Pakistani rupee rate has hit 190. So everyone is worried. All these matters, especially the economic crisis, has taken into cognizance by the Supreme Court. So to me, it appears that Shahbaz Sharif and the opposition government and the new finance minister, whoever it's going to be, will have to play a very, very crucial role. During the PTI's term, Imran Khan's term, there were four finance ministers. So hardly, there was any stability as far as the financial economic policies of the Imran Khan government was concerned. So maybe they will try to reverse all that, focus on the IMF bailout, start it as soon as possible, and take some urgent measures to provide some sort of economic stability in Pakistan, because the energy rates are also increasing, and we have seen that Pakistan is importing a lot, based on the State Bank of Pakistan's recent report that they're importing a lot. Energy prices are high because of the Russia-Ukraine crisis. So it's a difficult task, going to be a difficult task for the opposition. And one more, I think, difficult situation they'll have to face is the point of views of different opposition parties, of alliance members, whether they'll stick
Yes.
together. If they won't,
Yes.
then it's difficult for Pakistan to come out of the ongoing economic crisis.
Yes, there are inherent contradictions between different parties. But to recap for our viewers, today there was a historical day in Pakistan. Supreme Court gave out a verdict, and it said that the dismissal of the no confidence motion by the Deputy Speaker was unconstitutional, and it has reinstated the National Assembly and has given a date for the no confidence motion, which is 9th of April. And after that, we're obviously seeing opposition parties, celebrating. This is a victory for them. This is Maryam Nawaz Sharif saying, "Congratulations for Pakistan for getting rid of enemy of people, most incompetent," and Bilawal Bhutto Zardari saying that it's the democracy is the best revenge. And of course, the Shahbaz Sharif briefly spoke to the media. He is their candidate as the Prime Minister after that. But before we go to our guests, let's play the soundbite of Shahbaz Sharif.
मैं हज़रत मौलाना साहब की पूरी तायद करता हूँ। अल्लाह ताला का बेपाया फजल करम है और पूरे पाकिस्तान के 22 करोड़ आवाम की दुआएं जो है रब ताला ने कबूल की हैं और अदालत उज़्मा ने एक ऐसा फ़ैसला दिया है जिससे कि न सिर्फ पाकिस्तान का जो आइन है वो बच गया है, पाकिस्तान बच गया है। और अदालत उज़्मा ने ये फ़ैसला दे के अपनी जो उन्होंने अपना वक़ार और अपना उनकी जो इंडिपेंडेंस है उसको 4 चांद लगाए हैं। हम अदालत उज़्मा के बहुत शुक्रगुज़ार हैं कि उन्होंने एक यूनानिमस फ़ैसला दे के पाकिस्तान की आवाम की जो उनकी जो ख्वाहिशात थी उनकी अक्कासी की और पार्लियामान को मजबूत किया है, पार्लियामान का जो सॉवरेनिटी है उसको मजबूत किया है और आइन के तकद्दुस को बहाल किया है। मैं समझता हूँ कि ये एक शहर रमज़ान में ये एक बहुत बड़ा ये मार्का सर किया है पाकिस्तान के 22 करोड़ अवाम ने, मुतहदा अपोजिशन ने और तमाम इत्तेहादी पार्टीज़ ने और आवाम के साथ मिलकर ये जो जंग हमने गुर्बत के ख़िलाफ़ लड़नी है, बेरोज़गारी के ख़िलाफ़ लड़नी है और महंगाई के ख़िलाफ़ लड़नी है, ये इंशाअल्लाह हम मिलकर इंशाअल्लाह लड़ेंगे। आज हमें अल्लाह ताला के यहाँ अपना सर को अपना उसके सजदा रेज़ होना है और उसका अपना जितना शुक्र अदा करें वो कम होगा।
शहबाज साहब, आपने एक फैसला किया था कि गैर
और जी ये चूँकि मौलाना साहब ने अभी तरावी के लिए जाना है तो इन्होंने अपनी प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस का हिस्सा डाल दिया। अभी बिलावल भुट्टो साहब तशरीफ ला रहे हैं, फिर हम तमाम जो हैं काबरीन बाकी
निजात बनाएगी। अल्लाहु अकबर, अल्लाहु अकबर, अल्लाहु अकबर।
अभी आपने जाना नहीं, अभी मुतहदा अपोजिशन ने करनी है प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस।
आपने कहा था कि आइन तोड़ने की भी सजा होगी, तो इस पे क्या कहेंगे आप?
वो तो अब अदालत उज़्मा का जो फैसला है उसको पढ़ के पर बताएंगे आपको इंशाल्लाह, उसको पढ़ के बताएंगे इंशाल्लाह। तो आप जरा इंतजार कीजिए।
इस्लामाबाद में मौजूद है क्योंकि परसों इजलास बुला लिया सुबह 10 बजे, तैयारी मुकम्मल है।
अब बस वो हम आपको जेन्युइन सरप्राइज देंगे, जाली सरप्राइज नहीं देंगे।
Yes, so that was again Shahbaz Sharif. We heard him that he's saying that there will be a genuine surprise and not a jolly surprise or an artificial surprise. But I hope we have the other guests also online. Aisha Siddiqa. Okay, she'll join us shortly. But clearly, it's had you expected that such a thing will happen? Most of the commentators from Pakistan were saying that Supreme Court clearly has no jurisdiction. What's happening in the Parliament?
Well, yes, the expectation was mixed judgment. Remarks today given by the Chief Justice was against the Deputy Speaker's decision on no confidence vote. So, but however, Chief Justice also said that we are working on restating the constitution when Shahbaz Sharif said that you should reinstate the Parliament, National Assembly. So, many commentators in Pakistan, they were expecting some sort of mixed decision, that early elections and vote of no confidence motion decision given by Qasim Khan Suri was against the constitution. So expectation was mixed. Even we were also expecting that the Supreme Court might give a decision of fresh elections. However, that didn't happen, and it's for a good that didn't happen for Pakistan's democracy. Now the real battle is going to start, and we'll have to see how the Imran Khan party going to react to this thing. So far, the opposition is reacting and giving its remarks, but I think Imran Khan and his party members will also come up with some sort of statement and a plan to how to target the opposition government in the coming days. Therefore, I think there is likelihood of some sort of political instability in Pakistan.
You know, one of the members of Imran Khan's parties had said that somebody had asked him if such a scenario emerged that things will be reversed, what will you do? He said, then we have a second surprise.
Well,
and then he said that we have a third surprise also. I don't know what surprise he's talking about, but clearly it's a big day for the opposition parties. They have emerged victorious in all of this. Sort of they got the assembly back. They will now face the vote of no confidence motion. They will have their own prime minister, and clearly Imran Khan may not have he may not have figured that it could happen like this. Perhaps he was advised that things would go in his favor, but that's not really happened. It will be interesting to watch his reaction now.
Yes, I mean, I think exactly the same thing happened with the opposition on April 3rd. Maybe they were also not expecting such a big surprise. And similarly, what happened today, the Supreme Court's judgment was actually a surprise for Imran Khan. There are going to be several surprises. That's why we can't say exactly what's going to happen in the coming days. But so far, it looks like the opposition is going to make its own government in the coming days after April 9th. And then we'll see.
Okay, we are also joined by Aisha Siddiqa. What's your first thoughts after today's judgment?
Well, I thought that, I am relieved. It's a great judgment. It's a good turning point in Pakistan's history, political history. I think now seems to be a greater possibility for all political players to get that room where they can contest elections.
Okay, we seem to have lost that line. Yes, we seem to have lost that line. But she was, of course, saying that it's a big day for Pakistan, and now they can look ahead towards elections. But even before the election, there will be a government and some of the change that they might bring in before going for the election. That's why they wanted that there should be an interim government. Otherwise, the demand at the outset was that Imran Khan should go. That had happened. But they were insisting to form the government, perhaps to bring about some change before going into the election. But it may not be that easy for them, as we were discussing. There are economic challenges that the country is facing.
Well, exactly. I mean, that is going to be the issue in the coming days for the opposition. And more importantly, as I was mentioned earlier as well, that Shahbaz Sharif specifically mentioned about Gurbat, Berozgari, and the current economic crisis. So it's going to be their priority number one, but how they are going to resolve it is going to be extremely difficult. And my sense is that Imran Khan understands that the current economic crisis in Pakistan it's extremely difficult for even the opposition party and their coalition partners to solve in the coming days.
Welcome to the show, Suhasini. Imran Khan said that एक गेंद से 3 wicket उड़ा दूंगा, and he has the trump card and the surprise. Do you think he's got a bigger surprise today?
Well, I think that he took a big risk with what he did on Sunday. It was a kind of all or nothing move where he basically said, well, if I can't be prime minister, nobody can. And then to have the no confidence motion declared illegal, the allegations of foreign conspiracy, really turning himself very openly, calling out the United States for threatening him. I think all of these have been a kind of very, very high risk gamble by Mr. Khan. And the Supreme Court's verdict seems to suggest that he has lost on each of the gambles that he took. This does not mean that all is over for Mr. Khan. Clearly, there will be an election in Pakistan in a year or so. There may even be another political crisis in a few months down the road. For the moment, it does look as if the Supreme Court has decided to just turn back the clock, tell Mr. Khan, sorry, whatever you did on Sunday just does not work. In a strange way, Mr. Khan, after having resigned as Prime Minister on Sunday, recommending a dissolution of the Assembly, is now back to being Prime Minister because of the Supreme Court's order. And they've said, yes, it's almost like a blackboard, rub it out and do it all over again, get the sums right, this time. So he's going to have to go. They haven't given him much time because the confidence vote has to be held before Saturday 10:30. So he doesn't have time to really think of too many new options and new gambles to take. And the opposition does seem to have held its course, gone to the court, held its course in the Punjab Assembly as well, even though there's a bit of chaos there, made it clear that it has the numbers. Whether they are allowed to, whether they've been allowed so far to show those numbers in an assembly or not, they have shown that they do have the numbers. In the National Assembly, they showed they had the numbers. About 197, I think, had voted for the new speaker, the PMLN speaker, and Shahbaz Sharif. And then there was in the Punjab Assembly as well. They actually held that assembly session in a hotel because the assembly was put off bounds. And what we're likely to see is a repeat of that now taking place officially this time in the assembly on Saturday.
Perhaps strategy, Imran Khan had this strategy to do things so quickly that to make the entire process irreversible. Like that, the no confidence motion, Fawad Chaudhry stood up, he made a short speech, the Deputy Speaker disallowed the motion. Minutes later, Imran Khan gave a short address, then he sent the advice to the president dissolved the assembly. He had 48 hours, but he did. So to make this entire process, but that has really backfired. That's not happened. It's gone back to the square one, that the assemblies are still there and the no confidence motion, vote will take place.
Well, I think he's been reminded that you can't just make up the rules and you can't just push things ahead because at that moment he was in a position of power. And what the Deputy Speaker has done, according to the Supreme Court, is unconstitutional and illegal. Think of what that really means for the prestige of the Speaker of the Assembly. What does it mean for the President of Pakistan, Arif Alvi, who accepted everything that had been done in the Assembly that day and actually agreed to Imran Khan's proposition that there be that they dissolve the assembly, that they go for elections, accepted Imran Khan's choice of a caretaker, a prime minister. It looks pretty bad for the president of Pakistan, although the Supreme Court has not passed any comments on that. The fact is that the Supreme Court has reminded everyone that there is a process. You may not like it, but there is a process. There was a no confidence motion. It cannot be just thrown out for being illegal on the basis of an unverified threat, a letter that never really made it clear what Mr. Khan was alleging. The fact that he roped America into all of this, the entire episode of the last 4 or 5 days seemed as if, as you said, it was working to the idea that people should just forget. People should just look at the chaos and forget that it could be reversed. But the Supreme Court has said, so hold on, this is actually being reversed right now. And you now have a chance in 36 hours to do it right this time.
But as you said, that Supreme Court saying that it's unconstitutional and illegal, the ruling of the Deputy Speaker, does it also mean that that there has been an abrogation of the Constitution and it will there will be some sort of a punishment imposed on the Deputy Speaker and the Prime Minister?
I have to read it because I've been on television channels, so I've just heard, but I did hear the Supreme Court Chief Justice in Pakistan reading out the operative bits of the verdict. The fact is, the truth is that if you were to go through everything that you have seen, it doesn't all add up because, as I said, the Supreme Court is now reinstating a Prime Minister who himself resigned and doesn't want to be reinstated. He wants to go for elections. The Supreme Court has said you have to reconvene the National Assembly, which has already been dissolved. He's saying that you have to vote for a new Prime Minister when a caretaker Prime Minister has been put in charge. Then look at some of the other contradictions. The Supreme Court called in the Election Commissioner a few hours before its verdict. In fact, that's why the verdict got delayed. They asked the Election Commissioner, can you hold elections? He said, I can't hold them right now because I'm in the middle of a delimitation process. So it's going to take me at least 6 months. It'll take me at least until October to hold elections. Now the Constitution gets challenged again because a caretaker Prime Minister can only be in office for 3 months. You are seeing every institution in Pakistan kind of being countered or challenged by another one. But I think it is a fact that even those who are watching, who might have felt that Imran Khan had been unfairly ousted from his position a year early, because of course everybody has watched Pakistan for so many decades and said, why is it that no prime minister is ever allowed to completely finish a 5-year term and then go for elections? There's always some hitch, there's always some constitutional crisis or a criminal case or something that causes every prime minister, no prime minister has completed that 5-year term. So even though there was some sympathy for Imran Khan having to face this moment right now, I think the last 4 days have reminded everybody that regardless of what happens, you can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater, throw out all procedure, all process, and say, well, I'm just going to make up the rules right now and decide that if I can't be prime minister, nobody else can, and we'll just go for a new election.
We heard Shahbaz Sharif, of course, a very happy man today. We saw the tweets of Bilawal Zardari. We saw the tweets of, Maryam Nawaz. But it will be interesting to see what Imran Khan has to say. He has not tweeted so far. He has not spoken out. What's your guess? What can be his strategy? One of his ministers in a recent interview to a Pakistani television news channel was saying that there is a second surprise, then there is a third surprise. I don't know what does that mean.
I think that Mr. Khan has shown that he is, in fact, what he has always said, that he is going to play till the last ball of the last over. So obviously the next 36 hours, he might try to do something else. But I think it would be ill-advised, given that the Supreme Court has now given this verdict, to try and subvert the spirit of what the Supreme Court has said, that you have to face the no confidence motion. Your only other choice, really, according to what the Supreme Court has said, would be to decide to resign before the no confidence motion and allow the assembly that has been reconstituted to elect a new prime minister. There's no question in my mind that there could be many things. Mr. Khan doesn't react well to a fait accompli, as we have seen in the past. He has in the past tried to say people must come out on the streets. He tried to hold a rally just before the last no confidence motion. But what happened on Sunday was, apart from all the proceedings with the no confidence motion, is the opposition seems to have kept its cool this time, seems to have said, regardless of what happens, we will go ahead with the process. So they actually did sit it out. They sat in the assembly and elected a new speaker after voting out the speaker, even though, by then the speaker had called the assembly dissolved and everything. And then they showed their strength. So what I was trying to say earlier is that the opposition has actually once at least shown its strength, about 197 votes in favor of the speaker, and then for Shahbaz Sharif. What that means is, unless something happened in the last 4 days for the combined opposition, not just the PDM, but with it the PPP, and then the members who have now crossed over from Mr. Khan's party, as well as his allies who crossed over, all I think except for the PMLQ, what you're essentially seeing, and even the MQM I think is now moving over, what you're essentially seeing is that the opposition has held on to its numbers. It has held its cool, if you like, through the Supreme Court process, not tried to do anything else, just kept its faith in the Supreme Court process. So I think it'll be difficult for Mr. Khan to pull out yet another rabbit from his hat. But as I said, in Pakistani politics, I have learned to expect the unexpected. And of course, we just, as observers from a neighboring country, we can just observe and see how it plays out over there. But for the moment, it would seem as if Mr. Khan's best option would be to accept the Supreme Court verdict, which is something he said a few hours ago he would do, and to try and find his way back to rebuilding some of the credibility I think he has lost in the last few days.
Before we wrap up, I have to ask you one question. American name was dragged in all of this. Imran Khan waved that piece of paper. Then Donald Lu, he named America. He named the official. How do you see Pakistani and American, relationship heading here on? There has been, America has, of course, they said that they have nothing to do with the processes that are taking place inside Pakistan. But of course, now that it has been brought into the public domain, and Imran Khan has tried to build the narrative around that.
Do you know, Zafar, in decades ago, there used to be this theory in Pakistan that if the three A's came together, Allah, Army, and America, and of course, they meant the fundamentalists, the religious fundamentalist parties, the army itself, the military establishment, and the United States, if they were to come together, then, you know, a government would be either secured or would lose its power if the others were ranged against them. I certainly think in this situation, you have seen the US make it clear that they don't want to have any truck with Mr. Imran Khan. It is no secret that for more than a year, Mr. Biden has been in power. He has not once called Mr. Khan, despite the fact that we actually had Pakistani officials asking publicly why is the US president never picked up the phone. Even when Mr. Biden invited Mr. Khan to his democracy summit last year, Mr. Khan rejected it. But there wasn't any phone call made between the two. I think the US has shown its displeasure that way. And while at the same time, the US military was dealing directly with the Pakistani military, the foreign minister was dealing with them, other officials were actually traveling to Pakistan at that time. And I think a kind of real break came with Mr. Khan, who's always had a troubled relationship. Because if you remember, in the old days when Mr. Khan was opposed to US strikes in Pakistan, he in fact was called Taliban Khan because he said that, you know, the Taliban were actually fighting for their land. There has always been a discomfort with Mr. Khan when he went to the United States. Before that one trip with Mr. Trump, he was actually nearly, I think, sent back. So the fact is, there's always been this discomfort. Then you had the specter of Mr. Khan traveling to Moscow on the very day Mr. Putin announced his military operations.
Yes.
And I think that became a definite break between the United States and Mr. Khan. Whether they actually acted out on that or not, I don't think Mr. Khan has been able to prove his allegations, the ones that he had made. There'll always be this conspiracy there. And I do think that with anyone but Mr. Khan in power, the United States will obviously feel more comfortable than they have with him. And Mr. Sharif has been known to have fairly cordial relations. He's known in general as somebody who's able to forge relationships, both across the military-civilian divide, both with other countries as well. So if it is going to be Mr. Sharif, then you are likely to see a more, if you like, a calmer relationship with the United States.
Thanks so much, Suhasini. Thanks for joining us. And that brings us to the end of this special programming on the developments in Pakistan. Imran Khan says that he plays till the last hour and till the last ball. We really have to see whether the last hour has been called and last ball has been played. It will be interesting to watch what Imran Khan has to say now. Thanks so much for watching us. That's all we have in today's show.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.